I launched my business, Green Velvet Creative, at the end of April, and I wanted to give a realistic look into how it performed during the first month. For a while, I got really hung up on watching videos of artists talking about how their business got successful, and even though almost nobody said that they achieved success overnight, I found myself always comparing their progress 10 years down the road to my progress day one. Ultimately, I think it's my and our collective responsibility as viewers to learn how to celebrate other people's successes without comparing ourselves. But I also think it's natural to compare, and that social media really amplifies that. I tend to always have this mindset that I'm only going to share something if I already know that it's going to go well. And I think when we all kind of collectively have that mindset, social media turns into this highlight reel of just people's victories, and we end up comparing our realistic life to someone else's not realistic life. So not only do I want to provide a realistic and transparent view of how slow growth can be when you're starting a new business, I also just want to practice that level of vulnerability that it takes to share our failures and our stagnation. This video will just cover the first month after my launch. I do plan on making a video of everything that I did to set up my business, but that's taking a really long time because I want it to be an in-depth video. So once that's done, I will link it here. My launch was very poorly planned, and part of me wishes I would have put more thought into it, but it got to the point where I was just continuously making excuses for delaying the scary part and actually putting my stuff out there. My initial plan was to launch a few larger art pieces and then have merch items that kind of supported those. So I was going to do 2 series, the Fox and the Crow and the Frog and the Scorpion. Both would have a watercolor series, an illustration series, and then a sweatshirt, shirt, mug, glass, and tote bag to kind of support those. And then I was going to have just general Green Velvet Creative branded merch as well. I had the merch items for months. I'd already taken pictures and set up an Etsy shop, set up my website, done everything that I needed for the merch items, but the watercolor was taking me forever. And I really wanted to test out print suppliers before I added them to my store, but I couldn't justify putting more money into my business before it made any money. So one morning, without planning anything, without planning any formal launch or any social media content at all, I was just like, fuck it, I'm gonna put what I have out there. And so I posted an Instagram video. It's not like I opened the floodgates and suddenly people were rushing to my website to buy things. I'm pretty sure it got less than 30 likes, and I actually think I lost followers after I posted it, but it was just scary to know that it was out there, to know that people who I knew and people who I didn't know were going to my website. And at this point, I just hadn't planned anything ahead of time. I didn't plan my next launch. I had no clue when these watercolor paintings were going to be done. I didn't have social media content planned, and I also hadn't really tested out my website to see if there were going to be any issues with it. So even though nothing bad happened, I just got really overwhelmed knowing that I hadn't planned for what was next. But I did it. I could have just sat on this forever and continued to make excuses for why I wasn't ready, why I hadn't researched enough or planned enough or honed my skills enough or built up enough of an art collection to launch. But I'm so glad that I just started. If you only watch this part of the video, I hope that's your takeaway. If you have been sitting on an idea that you're excited about, just start. I learned so much valuable information that I wouldn't have known if I had continued to wait. And I think what I'm learning is that I will probably never feel ready. I will probably never feel like my work is good enough or that the piece is finished or whatever. But the experience that I gain from just putting it out there and running this business is just completely invaluable. Is invaluable the right word? Cool. During my first month, I launched 18 products on both Etsy and my website. I posted 5 Instagram posts, 3 YouTube videos, 3 YouTube shorts, and 6 TikToks. I didn't do anything with email, my blog, or Pinterest until June, so there won't be any performance metrics for those. Here are my performance metrics by platform as of May 22nd, 2024. Looking at Instagram, I reached 2,467 accounts, got 3,774 impressions, mainly on Reels. Despite Instagram telling me that this video was too short for anyone to see it, it was my top performer both in terms of engagement and reach. 160 people visited my profile, 20 people visited my website. I got 172 engagements, and I ended the month with 141 followers, gaining 24 followers and losing 3. Oh, and I made $0. So looking at what I posted during my first month, I posted a video just announcing that I was back. I posted a collaboration post with my personal account to announce that I was back to people that I actually know in real life. I posted a product post of this glass. I boosted this for like 2 seconds and it didn't help at all, so I unboosted it. I think I paid like 90 cents for it. I posted a picture of a painting I was working on, a reel of a drawing that I was working on. What else did I post? Oh, and then I posted a video of a watercolor I was working on, an old reel of a drawing, and was this May? I don't think this was May. So that was it. Overall, I found it kind of hard to reach people on Instagram compared to how Instagram used to be. That's been my experience with all the clients that I worked with at my job as well. It's just not as easy to engage with people anymore unless you're posting reels constantly and setting up automatic replies in your comments, which doesn't really feel in line with what I'm trying to do. I feel like I got into art because I wanted to slow down, and the idea of churning out content constantly seems kind of like the opposite of what I want to do. So this is likely not a platform where I will spend a lot of energy. All right, looking at TikTok, I got 1,537 views, 171 engagements, and then 3 people clicked on my website. I gained 9 followers, and I believe I ended the month with a total of 14 followers, and I made $0. I posted 6 times total. 3 were reposts of Instagram posts that I've already shown, but then I was testing out a time-lapse version of the same flower painting video, and then I did 2 drawing challenge videos, which I later posted on Instagram. Honestly, my biggest problem with this platform is that I am ass at recording myself drawing on my phone. I have a super old phone and a super dark apartment, and my tiny little tripod light is just not cutting it. But it's hard to find the perfect time and the perfect area to film, and I notice that I draw way less when I feel like I need to do all this setup before I can start. However, I got almost 3,000 less impressions on TikTok, I believe, compared to Instagram, and basically the same amount of engagement. So it does at least feel like I have a better chance of actually reaching engaged audiences on this platform, which is awesome. I'm considering joining TikTok Shop so I can just sell my art straight from the platform, but please comment if you've done this and tell me your experience. I've pretty much only seen people selling like cheapo fake skincare and stuff on there, so I don't know if it's even possible to sell my own art on there. Looking at YouTube now, this was my favorite place to post. I moved the time range back a little bit because I posted before April as well. So in this time frame, I got 3,387 views. I gained 136 subscribers, got 110 watch hours, and I can't remember where I found my engagements, but I found them somewhere on here, like just my likes and comments, and it was 259 engagements. My top performing content for this period was surprisingly a 1-hour watercolor video that had no audio, which I really didn't think that people were going to like this, but it got positive feedback, which was good. And then a watercolor time lapse that I posted on Shorts. Again, I'm really surprised that like really long form content performed well on here. I mean, obviously people are only getting through a couple minutes of it on average, but I would have thought that shorter videos would have done better. So I'm happy because that's the type of videos that I like to consume, and it also makes me feel like it's worth it for me to film all this content. Obviously, if I'm posting a time lapse, that means I've recorded like 4 hours of footage and I'm just condensing it down to a minute, which is sometimes a bummer. So it's nice that people do kind of want to watch the real-time version of it. Again, less impressions than Instagram, but almost double the engagements. And this is also way closer in line with the type of content that I like to make. I'm much more comfortable with a camera than a phone, and I would much rather show the whole process of something or talk through my feelings on a topic instead of constantly feeling like I need to be finding the new trending audio or the new viral video format. So even though videos on here take more effort, they just feel less draining to work on. All right, now on to my e-commerce platforms. So I wanted to test out both Etsy and my own website. I've heard a lot of horror stories about Etsy recently, but I do like that it's kind of its own self-sustained ecosystem. I don't know about y'all, but I've pretty much never looked for art on Google. I've either looked for it on Etsy or stumbled upon it on Instagram. Since Instagram kind of fumbled their chance to function as a search engine though, I just feel like I have a way better chance of being seen by the right people on Etsy because I have a little more control over it, so I did want to try it. To put it a different way, because Google is a general search engine, I'm competing for share of voice against the entirety of the internet, and it's not where I feel like my audience is looking for art. My audience may be looking for art on Instagram, but because Instagram is not a search engine and you just kind of have to pray to the gods of the algorithm and hope that they choose to put you in front of the right people, it feels kind of like I have less control over it. Because Etsy is both a search engine and a place for art, I feel more confident that I can get in front of the people who are actually looking for what I'm offering. All right, so from the time I started my Etsy until May 22nd, I got 364 visits. It doesn't show it in this view, but I got 605 views, 364 shop visits, 6 orders, which was a 1.6% conversion rate, and I made $133. 38 people liked my items and 5 people followed me. I am kind of thrilled about this because other than my sweet, sweet mother, these were all strangers buying my products, which did kind of prove my hypothesis that this platform would be the most organic way to reach new customers and not just advertise to my friends and family, which is what it felt like I was doing on Instagram. I did spend $48.36 on ads during my first month. I believe I set it to a $10 a day budget across all of my products, which is probably not the best ad strategy. But I haven't figured out my ad strategy yet, so I was just kind of throwing shit at the wall and seeing if it stuck. But yes, I did spend $48.36 on ads during my first month, and one person purchased directly from an ad. They bought $50 worth of items. It was a $63.78 sale in total. And because of that, Etsy says I profited off of ads. But after fees and what it took to produce the item and shipping and all of that, I actually lost $24.66 on ads. So I do plan to test next month to see if I can literally get any traffic without ads, but based on what I've been hearing about Etsy and the way my performance looked before I started paying for ads, I have a feeling that this is becoming kind of a pay-to-play platform. Lastly, looking at my website, I had 181 site sessions, 44 viewed products, 14 added to their carts, and 10 successfully converted. In total, I made $370 on 11 orders. I should note that all of these were friends and family, which absolutely doesn't take away from how excited I was, but it was definitely less of a result of my marketing efforts and definitely more of a result of just having really great and supportive people in my life. You can see from the traffic sources, pretty much everyone either came from Instagram, or I'm assuming this is like me sending the link to people, or Facebook. And then $4 was me testing out these orders. So I guess subtract $4 from this total. Oh, I should probably also talk about the products that did well. So on my website, I sold the most Green Velvet Creative sweatshirts and Green Velvet Creative hats. I'm actually very surprised that these kind of merch items sold. I put those on there because I wanted them. So I'm very surprised that people bought them, but also very happy. And it makes me really happy to see my friends wearing my stuff around. I also sold 2 Fox and Crow stickers, and then 1 each of the Frog and Scorpion sweater, Fox and Crow sweatshirt, Frog and Scorpion t-shirt, Fox and Crow tote bag, and then the Frog and Scorpion mug and glass. On Etsy, let's see. On Etsy, I also sold 2 of these Frog and Scorpion stickers, 1 more sweatshirt, the Fox and Crow mug. This was my purchase, this Frog and Scorpion magnet, which is no longer on there because I did not like the magnet. And then 1 of the Frog and Scorpion shirts. Overall, my first month was so much more successful than I ever thought that it would be. I may have mentioned this before, but Green Velvet is not my first rodeo. I've had, I believe, 3 creative ventures before this that I ended up quitting within the first month because I either didn't sell anything or didn't book anything, and convinced myself that it was just a massive failure and that I had to give up. Before I started Green Velvet, I decided that I was just going to let go of any expectation that I had and just be happy with any outcome. I knew this was something I wanted to do. I knew this was experience that I wanted to gain and that I was going to learn lessons regardless of what happened. So I decided for myself that I was just going to persevere even if it took me years to sell something. I also genuinely did not expect that I was going to sell anything, so I am shocked and overjoyed that I did. I did not, however, profit. If you already watched my video about guaranteeing success, you will know that I am very risk averse. I don't like financial risk. So I only allowed myself to spend money on my business that I had made from other creative ventures. So freelancing, second shooting weddings, any sort of illustration or branding work that I've done on the side, that was the only money that I could put toward supplies, samples, expenses, and fees. In total so far, I've made $552.66. It cost $356.23 to produce what people bought. I spent $11.30 on website expenses, $48.36 on ads, and $485.41 on supplies and samples. So if my math is right, that means I would still need to make $348.64 in order to break even. However, this video is just about my first month and all supplies and samples were purchased before I launched. So if we're only looking at April 22nd to May 22nd, I profited $136.77, which I think is a very good first month. Honestly, having really incredibly supportive friends and family had the biggest impact this month. I think 10 out of 16 of my first orders were from people who I love dearly. And I don't think that that takes away from the success or the effort that I put into my marketing at all. Like I said, this is my fourth creative venture and I didn't sell anything to anyone in those past ventures. So this is a huge success for me. Ads, unfortunately, also had a large impact. I kind of had this idea in my head that I was going to do so much of this organically and really lean into the SEO and word of mouth side of things. However, it does seem like Etsy is becoming a kind of pay-to-play platform. So if I do decide to stay on that platform, I think I'm going to have to continue to invest in ads in order to perform. All right, what did I learn? I will say this again. I think the biggest thing I learned is how important it is to just start. Yes, I probably could have planned more. I probably could have done more research and built up more content for social media and had a collection ready and known when my watercolor print would launch. I could have done a million things differently, but no matter what I would have done up until this point, that would have not given me any experience running a business. Running a business is the only thing that could give me experience running a business. So I'm so glad that I started. I learned so much this month about the parts of running a business that I enjoy, that feel fulfilling, that don't feel draining, and the types of things that I want to lean into in the future. I also learned to get over myself in the kindest way possible. Nobody's sitting up at night wondering why I didn't post on social media every other day like I promised myself I would. Nobody is waiting for me to finish the watercolor that they don't even know I'm working on. The world will keep turning if I don't stick to my social media schedule, and my success is not dependent on me finishing my watercolor painting by the date that's on my to-do list. This is not to say that I don't want to get better at those things. I want to be more consistent and I want to stick to my deadlines a little better. But the whole reason that I started this business was because I hate the amount of stress and pressure that I experience in my 9-to-5, and I don't want to have that with my art business. And I found myself consistently putting pressure on myself to stick to things that nobody cared about except for me. I have said this before, and I will probably say this a million more times, but it is such a blessing to me that I have a small enough audience that I can make mistakes right now. And because of that, I really want to avoid putting the pressure on myself to have everything figured out and find my footing immediately. I have like 130 Instagram followers right now. I could and did do a complete 180 with my business and nobody cared. I could and did take a 1-year hiatus off of posting and nobody cared. I think my main point is I don't want to put pressure on myself to have it all figured out on day one. I'm also at the point where I don't think I'll ever have it figured out, and I think that's a good thing. All right, so what will I do differently next month? These next few months are really about experimentation for me. Like I said, I'm putting no pressure on myself to have it all figured out or pick one singular path that my business has to move toward. I really just want to test things out before I expand my collection anymore. So my current plan is, in June, I'm going to order prints of my watercolor that is finally done. I'm going to post every other day on social media, and see, if I like doing that, if it's completely draining, and if it does anything for my business. I'm going to set up email, blog, and downloadable content, and then plan alternate Etsy listings and bundles and my print launch. In July, I'm going to start selling prints, start back up my Etsy ads, set up Pinterest verified merchant, email automation, continue YouTube and my blog, and then plan my next collection and my full content, email, and ad strategy. And then in August, I'm going to start up email marketing, Pinterest ads, and my next collection. I'm going to set up Google Merchant, potentially TikTok Shop, and I'm going to continue posting consistently, Etsy ads, and my blog. So we will see what happens in the next few months. Thank you for being here.